let's go and let's make the falling block a color. So in order to do that, we're going to have to add another constant here. We'll call this color of block. Make that equal to, and I'm going to literally copy this integer here because we're going to assign a random number. Okay, and this random number is going to be between 0 and 2. So we always add in 1. Okay. Now, below this falling block name, it has to be below this here. We're going to say if color color of block is double equal to 0, then we're going to do two things. First of all, we're going to say falling block dot color is equal to off-white color. Okay, so we're going to make it the exact same color scheme as the player. Then we're going to go to falling block dot name is equal to, and then we're going to say this is called this falling block 0. Now, what this is going to do is that we can now compare the string value of falling name, because that's what this is, the name of falling block to falling block 0. And you can bet that if we copy and paste it a couple more times, so we'll say this is 1 and this is 2 here, and we're going to change this to 1 and 2. So when we add in the physics, it's going to change the falling block here. But of course, we want to change this to orange color, and we want to change this one to blue color. Perfect. Now let's take a look at that here, and let's go ahead and let's run it. All right, and so every time this happens now, the block is going to be a different color. So, for example, when you're blue, you have to catch the blue but avoid all the other colors. Okay? And that's pretty much how it works. Okay? So that actually looks pretty good. Now, let's go and let's add in some of the falling block did begin contact. Now, in order to do this, let's move up all the way to the top, and by our SK scene, we're going to say that this is SK physics contact delegate. And then in the did move to view, we're going to go to self dot, okay, we're going to go to self dot, or just physics world actually, dot contact delegate is equal to self. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow us to add in physical connections. So let's move back down below, kind of above these update functions here. And we're going to add in a function, and we'll call this did begin contact. Now, if you didn't see did begin contact, you probably added in the incorrect code. So in here, we're going to add in our first body, because there are always two contacts. There's the first body and the second body. We're going to go to contact.bodyA, and then we're going to say let second body is equal to contact.bodyB. Right? And then within here, we're going to add in a pretty big if statement. So let's kind of add in the two brackets here. We're going to say first body dot category bitmask is double equal to physics category dot player. We're going to add an and two more brackets. We'll say that this is second body dot category bitmask is double equal to physics category dot falling block. Okay. Now I'm going to copy everything but the first bracket here. Okay. And then I'm going to add in an or, and then I'm going to paste it. Switch player with falling block and switch falling block with player. Okay. And you can see here that yes, what's happening in this particular instance is that I did not allow the space here. Swift is very particular about the spaces. Now, we need to pass this into another function. So we take the bodies that are contacting, then we pass them into a new function here. We'll call this player falling block collision. And we're going to say this is contact A colon SK sprite node. And then we're going to be contact B SK sprite node. Okay. And then within here, this if statement, we're going to say player falling block collision. And we'll say that this is the first body dot node as sk sprite node, and this will be second body dot node as sk sprite node. Okay. Now within here, there is a huge amount of if statements here. So we're going to deal with one. We're going to say if contact A dot name is double equal to the player. Okay, and we should make this equal to player name. Okay, and you want to make sure that you add in your curly brackets here. So we have a player here, and then we need to add in another bunch of if statements here. So if contact A is equal to player name, because remember, either the player can collide with the falling block or the falling block can collide with the player. It depends how the computer registers it. So we'll say that this is contact B dot name is equal to, um, uh, and before we even do the contact A, we're going to say color selection is double equal to 0, and we're going to say that contact B dot name is equal to falling block 0. So what is this saying here? It's saying if the player is 0 and the contact B is also equal to falling block 0, then we're going to go and do a couple things here. We're going to say this is contact B dot remove from parent. So we're going to get rid of that. Okay. Then we're going to say score is equal to score plus 1. And then we're going to add in a function. We'll call this update score. And in here, we're going to go to lbl score dot text is equal to score. And so this will print the score to the screen. And we'll say update score. Now, see these if statement here? We need to copy this a total. And actually, before we do this, we're going to deal with the else statement. Okay, so the else if, and this is important here, is a else if, and we're going to say color selection is double equal to 1, or color selection is double equal to 2, or, and this has to be in brackets, and we'll say and it'll be contact B dot name is equal to falling block 0. So what does this mean at all? And you add in your curly brackets as well. So it's saying that if the color selection is either 1 or 2 and the falling block 0 is falling block B here, we're going to say is alive. And what we can do is we can actually just add in another function here called game over logic. And in here, we're going to say is alive is double equal to or is equal to false. Okay, so we're going to set that is alive is equal to false here. Okay, so all we're going to say is game over logic. So you lose the game. So you need these two if statements here. You need to make sure that the color selection is the right name as the falling block, and you need to account for all of the other items here. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to copy and paste this 2 more times, and we're going to say that this is color selection 1 now, falling block 1. The rest of this stays the same. We're going to select 1 and make it 0 and 1. Okay, and this is where logic can get a little bit tricky. So this here is if the player is white. This here is if the player is orange, And the last one here is going to be if the player is blue. Now, notice how I reused as much code as I possibly could. This is something that's super important, okay? And you can see that this is falling block 2. Okay, so now that's actually looking pretty good. Now, if this wasn't complicated enough, we're going to need to copy this entire if statement here. Okay, and to double check, you want to make sure that our brackets are working, and I think that is exactly everything here. We need to copy this if statement and paste it, except for we're going to switch contact A with contact B, and then we're going to switch contact A with contact B. So every time we have a contact B, we're going to switch it with A. Because remember, either the falling block is colliding with the player, or the player is colliding with the falling block. So you have to account for both of them here. And pretty much that's all you need to do. Okay, so this is a lot of code, and I totally understand that. But it's saying that if contact A is player name, and then we add in our collision logic, or if contact B is player name, and that adds our collision logic here. All right, this concludes the tutorial.